3 years after Attack of the Clones, we got the final movie in the prequel trilogy, Star Wars Episode 3: Revenge of the Sith. Whether you are a fan of this movie or not, there is absolutely no denying that this is the best film in the prequel trilogy. This was the film where we finally got to see Anakin's transformation to the dark side and finally see how he became Darth Vader. So we expected a dark and violent movie, and that was exactly what we got. In fact, in the UK, this was the first film in the franchise to be rated a 12. The original trilogy and Episode 1 all got U ratings and Episode 2 got a PG. So for this to be a 12, we expected it must be as dark as we hoped it would be. Up until earlier today, it was the only Star Wars film that I'd seen in the cinema. I remember seeing this film when I was 8 years old and loving it, and honestly now, despite its flaws, I really like this movie. Let's look at the plot of the movie. The film starts with a space battle above Coruscant between the Galactic Republic and the Separatist Alliance. Obi-Wan and Anakin are leading a mission to rescue Supreme Chancellor Palpatine, who has been kidnapped by Separatist Commander General Grievous. They find Palpatine being held captive by Count Dooku. They battle Count Dooku and Obi-Wan is injured. Anakin then gets the perfect opportunity to kill Count Dooku, and after Palpatine urges him to do it, he decapitates him. General Grievous then flees the spaceship and Obi-Wan and Anakin crash land the ship on Coruscant. This opening is easily one of my favourite sections in not just this movie but also the entire saga. It's tense and exciting. Sure, there are stupid things in it, like when R2-D2 has a jetpack. After getting back to Coruscant, Anakin discovers that Padme is pregnant. Shortly afterwards, however, he starts to have premonitions of Padme dying in childbirth. Palpatine appoints Anakin to join the Jedi Council as a representative, but the Council rejects his request and orders him to instead monitor the Chancellor. Because of this, Anakin starts to lose faith in the Jedi. Palpatine then starts to entice Anakin with knowledge of the dark side of the Force, including how it can allow him to cheat death. Palpatine then reveals himself to Anakin as Sith Lord Darth Sidious. Anakin then reports this to Mace Windu, who confronts Palpatine in probably the worst lightsaber fight in the whole series. I mean, it's just really ridiculous. It's even worse than the Yoda one from Attack of the Clones. After realizing that joining Palpatine could allow him to save Padme from dying, Anakin intervenes on Palpatine and Mace Windu and allows Palpatine to kill him. Anakin then pledges himself to Palpatine, joining the dark side. Palpatine then dubs him as Darth Vader. Palpatine, using the clone army, then issues an order known as Order 66 in which all Jedi are exterminated. Then he transforms the Galactic Republic into the Galactic Empire and declares himself the Emperor. Yoda and Obi-Wan survive Order 66 and return to the Jedi Temple to discover Anakin's descent to the dark side. Obi-Wan tells Padme about his turn and she goes to Mustafar to confirm it. Obi-Wan stows away aboard Padme's ship. When Darth Vader discovers Obi-Wan, he accuses Padme of betrayal and force chokes her. And then Darth Vader and Obi-Wan have a fight. A fight that at first is absolutely amazing. Seriously, the first couple minutes of this fight is some of the most fun and exciting action I've ever seen. However, the fight scene goes on way too long. There is so much that could have been cut out and it would have made it much better. But still, this final lightsaber battle has more emotion and power in it than anything in the previous two movies. Yeah, it may still be overly choreographed like people always say, but they still managed to keep the energy in there while packing in the emotion that the fights in the original trilogy has. You're watching two good friends fighting, both of them feel betrayed and are angry, and you see that in every single swing. This scene is really powerful. At the same time, Yoda confronts Palpatine and they have a battle which again is pretty good. Obi-Wan dismembers Darth Vader's legs and leaves him burning to die. Obi-Wan takes Padme away for her to give birth. She gives birth to twins known as Luke and Leia. However, after giving birth, she dies of a broken heart. Palpatine salvages Darth Vader and takes him to Coruscant, where he's given robotic limbs and a respiratory suit. The Sith then start to build the Death Star. Obi-Wan decides he needs to hide the twins away from the Empire. He takes Leia to Alderaan and then takes Luke to his Uncle Owen on Tatooine. The film ends with probably one of my favourite final shots in the entire series, as Owen and Beru stare off into the distance while holding Luke. Now, I'm not denying that this is a very, very flawed movie. Many of the problems in the first two movies return here, but as a whole this movie works so much better than the previous two movies. First off, the action scenes are incredible. Every single action scene, minus maybe the Mace Windu Palpatine fight, is fantastic. It's in these scenes that George Lucas really comes into his own as a director. They're well shot, well choreographed, and really well edited. The Order 66 sequence is really good. It's incredibly tense and exciting too. When it came down to the effects in the previous two movies, they don't really hold up too well now. This film still looks fantastic. Like seriously, people may disagree with me here, but I think this is still to date one of the best looking examples of CGI in a film ever. The story is really good. It does a great job of tying the two trilogies together, and although there are many unanswered questions and also plot holes that are created because of things that don't add up between this film and the original trilogy, George Lucas did a great job of answering some of the questions we may have had. Anakin's eventual turn to the dark side is not as good as it could have been, but I still think it is decent. I just think it would have been better if he wasn't so whiny. I know people always complain about Hayden Christensen's performance, and I will admit that it's not good in the second movie at all, but honestly I think he does an alright job in this movie. He's not amazing, but I don't think he deserves all the backlash he got. In fact, as a whole, the acting in this movie is much better than in the previous two movies. Sure, there are still many dull scenes of exposition where everyone looks and sounds bored, but the rest of the time it seems like they're actually trying. Probably my favourite thing about this movie is that those boring exposition scenes, although may still be there, are not only more interesting than before, but also don't take up much of the film at all. Most of the film is action, and it's a hell of a fun movie. Now of course, as I said earlier, it's still a flawed movie, so let's look at what doesn't work about this movie. The dialogue in this movie is once again laughably bad. The first movie actually had some dialogue here and there that was memorable, not because it was terrible, but because it was pretty good, but good in a cheesy sort of way. This film has dialogue that is only memorable because of how much it makes me laugh. There are also some very terrible moments in this movie that I think kind of ruin it. One of which being when Anakin kills all the children that are training to be Jedis. It was just unnecessary. Also, there's the infamous no shout at the end of the movie, which is widely considered to be the most ridiculous moment in the entire saga. Another big problem I have is with something that doesn't add up between the two trilogies. In Return of the Jedi, Leia talks about remembering her mother. However, we see in this film that she dies during childbirth, so that makes that scene in episode 6 really make no sense. Honestly, that's all the big problems I have with the film. I know other people can talk for hours about the issues in this film. In fact, there are still a large amount of people out there who hate this movie and consider it to be just as bad as the previous two, but I personally just can't hate it. I'm not even going to say it's because of nostalgia or anything, because I legitimately still enjoy a lot of this film. It's an exciting and fun movie. It's heavily flawed and I can definitely see why people would dislike it, but I just can't. There are a lot of people who consider this to actually be the best in the entire saga, and although I would not go that far at all, I can see why people would. I really like it. It's not perfect, but neither was the original trilogy. It's a good ending to a trilogy that as a whole is not great. I don't find myself hating it as much as most people, but I can't sit here and defend it or anything. It's got huge problems, and The Phantom Menace is still a shit film any way you look at it. The films also don't really feel like Star Wars. They're incredibly slow, overly complicated, and only fun in a few places. But as much hate as the prequel trilogy gets, it still has some really good, memorable moments, most of which are in Revenge of the Sith. So I give Star Wars Episode 3 Revenge of the Sith an 8 out of 10.